evening, folks. Ron Motta here, your host of Activate Worcester. And our guest tonight, and it's really foolish to even say he's a guest anymore, he's really more of a co-host, is my buddy Jay, Jay Givan. And Jay does an awful lot of analysis as to what's happening with politics and so on and so forth, although he can discuss baseball and he can also discuss rock music because he is a musician and has been for a long time. But the subject tonight is politics, as well it should be. We are in the gun lap right now. November 6th, is it?
5th.
5th. Okay. The parties are going to be
Give or
on the
take.
6th. Okay.
Democrats vote on Wednesday.
There you go. You can vote early and vote often and all that sort of business. But the thing you've got to do, whether you do it through someone else, or do it early, or show up at the polls on the 5th, November 5th, you got to get out and vote. We have a situation, let's just talk Worcester for a moment. Our population is about 210,000 people, give or take. The last count that I saw is that there were approximately 100,000 people on the voting logs. It's a little bit more than that, but we're talking ballpark here. Okay. They say that nationwide, about 2/3 of all the eligible voters, one way or another, will vote. That means 1 out of 3 says the hell with it. I don't need to vote. Because keep in mind, there's a lot more, as you know, than a national election, which is mega huge this year. There are many local elections. Among other things, we've got a Senate race in this state as well. And there is no reason for people not to get out and vote, or at least have their voice heard, because you can still contact City Hall, and you can still get an absentee ballot. Even if you're housebound, they will take care of you. And it's a great system. And basically, there's no way to hide with this. And if you don't vote, you've lost your charter to really make comment, plus or negative, about anybody. So it really has to start right there. You've got to get out and vote. This year, the election, obviously, at the top of the ticket is the most polarized I've ever seen in my life. And the stakes couldn't be higher. And obviously, you know where I'm coming from. I'm a conservative. I'm a constitutionalist. I'm not a quote-unquote liberal. I'm not a progressive, both of which are misnomers. Okay, our friend from Vermont calls himself a democratic socialist. And there's a lot of cute ways to gild the lily. Is it fascism? Is it communism? Is it socialism? It really gets down to it. It's capitalism versus communism, period. Look up the definition of both, and whichever camp you find yourself in, vote your conscience accordingly. And the last thing I'll say about it is that if you're happy with what's happening locally, continue to vote for the same people. If you're not too happy with that, make a change. Don't just roll over. Do some investigative work to see where these people are coming from. Same thing with the Senate, same thing with gubernatorials, if those are up, and the same thing, obviously, at the presidential level. Take a look at where the candidates stand on the key issues, of which there's many and varied, and there's just no way somebody can be on the fence at this point, period. If you're on the fence, it just means you haven't looked. You really haven't looked into the issues, and you're going to deserve what you get. And that's been my premise for a long time. We get the government that we richly deserve. If it's a bad government, we have to own it, plain and simple. That being said, what's on your mind tonight, my friend?
Define bad. Define good.
Define female, define male. You know, that's
Define citizen. That seems to be the
very good point.
word of the week. this week in Worcester.
Pray tell, why is that?
That tell. Well, last night at the City Council meeting on October 15th, there was an agenda item 10L, filed by the Worcester Republican City Committee, the WRCC for short. But before I get there, I want to make one caveat. The chair of the committee, like previous chairs and future chairs, whether it's the Republican committee or the Democrat committee, whether it's a board of selectmen, whatever it is, the chairs of those committees, they come in for a year or two, they step down, somebody else takes over. So public pressure is not forcing out the current chair. She's probably going to step down anyway, as you know that to be the case. So basically the story is, considering immigration as the overarching subject, the issue, or at least one of them this year, it's trickled into the state level, particularly in Virginia, and now it's reached Worcester. The WRCC filed a agenda item, which became 10L, that would simply require or reinforce current laws, federal, state, and the Worcester City Charter, that only American citizens can hold elected office.
Naturalized or native born?
Native born, naturalized.
Doesn't matter. If you're a citizen, you can vote. And if you're a citizen, you can hold elective office.
Correct.
Those are the caveats. Those are the rules. Not established, folks, by the local Republican committee or the local Democratic committee or the local any committee. This has been established. This is the way it is, period. Not the way it could be, and it's not up for a vote unless people change the laws. Folks, these are the laws that exist currently, and these are the laws that impact this election and all subsequent elections until those laws are modified or changed. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. So tell us about Virginia.
There's a lot of ways I can preface this. As you know, we oscillate between national, federal, local, and go around in circles all the
We
time.
flip-flop.
So currently in Virginia, the state is being sued, the governor, the state, one and the same, is being sued because the governor is removing illegal aliens and ineligible or dead voters from the voter rolls because he believes there should be a clean election and that only registered American voters should be voting in Virginia.
With the caveat is they should be alive as well.
Yeah, they should be alive too. I mean, that helps.
Yeah.
And you've got nationally, you've got these issues in Springfield, Ohio. Illegal immigration is a 50-state issue at this point. We have unbridled open borders. Open borders leads to drug trafficking, human trafficking. Terrorists are coming in. It's a mess. The schools are being flooded. Courtrooms are being flooded. It's becoming more and more expensive. You've got tightened housing markets. You've got Venezuelan gangs overtaking apartment buildings. ABC doesn't think that's a problem, but it is.
They're good folks.
So immigration is a problem. Citizenship is a problem. Illegal aliens can get a driver's license starting last year. A driver's license is one of the main things you need to be able to register to vote. And how they massage and manipulate laws gives the left, in this case, a reason to say, well, you have to be an American citizen to hold office. And you can only be an American citizen if you're registered to vote. And that's true. But there's a thing called fraud. There's a thing called, let's let things slide, this sort of stuff. So last night at the city council meeting, the chair of the committee, Mary Ann Carroll, she cited law, statutes, and the fact that all we're asking is that there's some sort of one extra step of verification. That the foreign-born, who, if they're naturalized, they're a citizen, they don't have to worry about it. It's just one little extra step, like you're filling out the census, like the whole litany of things.
See, the thing of it is, just to embellish something you just said, so if an illegal person gets a driver's license, okay, number one, and they're living at 123 Main Street, or whatever, okay, they literally can get put on the voting rolls. And
They register to vote.
They register to vote. And it flies in the face of what we've always said, that you have to be a citizen, naturalized or native born, to be able to vote and be over 18 and all that sort of business. So the frightening thing is, they're really saying you don't have to be a citizen. Why go through the aggravation of, going through the testing and everything else? Hey, you get the driver's license, your gas bill or whatever it is, and you're still getting money from the state, money from the feds. Life is a beautiful thing, and you're in great shape with all this. The thing with Virginia, Biden and company are suing him for upholding the law. Guys, you can't make this stuff up. I'm not gilding the lily to make it sound more, diabolical than it is.
And I think the Biden administration is stating, and I could be wrong on this, he's doing this within 90 days of the election. And I think that's the issue.
Of course
But
it is.
an illegal voter is an illegal voter. And I don't mean that as an
Understood.
immigration.
One of the things that I heard, there's always new information coming out. And one of the things that we heard is that they had Mayorkas, I'm sure you know who he is, with his golden pate that he has, the Director of Homeland Security. Oh boy, yeah. They were pinning him down about the number of illegals and the number of people that have come in who have rather nefarious backgrounds, okay? And to make a very long story short, we don't have enough time to get into it, basically they make up the numbers. It's not fudging the numbers, they just make them up. There are roughly more than a third of all the cameras that supposedly are in use tracking people as they come across. A third of them are down, and there's no plan to fix them. So then the questioner, who is a U.S. senator, said, well, where do you get your numbers? Where do you get your numbers? He said, well, we have people on the border who have a pretty good handle on this, and they understand, and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so obviously this was, your nose is getting, Cyrano de Bergerac, can barely fit in the building. So then the senator comes back and cross-examines him about that. And he says, this is Mayorkas. That's all I'm going to say on the subject. Done. Okay. We get it. Folks, this is what we have running this country now. And we can get into all sorts of reasoning on both sides as to why they're forcing this to happen. But the bottom line is we have anywhere from 10 to 25 million people that have come across the border, and my guess is as good as theirs. And God knows where they come from, because they're not just coming from Mexico, they're coming through Mexico from various places, including many behind the old Iron Curtain, coming from China, coming from Vietnam, and all sorts of other places that are, not our friends, Iraq, Iran, and all that sort of business in the Middle East. And we're supposed to sit there and suck it up and sit in the corner and shut up. Just pay your taxes because we know what to do with that money, which is basically to take care of these people. Why do they want this to happen? Because if you were one of these folks, let's say you don't have any malice intended, you come into this country and you're told very simply, you vote for the Democrats and the gravy train will continue. You vote for those quote unquote evil Republicans, guess what? The gravy train ends and you're going to have to cut it on your own. And many of these people don't have language skills, don't have marketable skills. In other words, the gravy train stops. And as a friend was saying, if these people kept coming across, if it turned out that 2/3 of them voted Republican, they'd have Democrats with machine guns, watching as they tried to come across from Eagle Pass, Texas, and all the other places that we've known. So this is the hand that we've been dealt, folks. So to sit there silently and just assume that this is on the up and up is disgusting. And what Jay is talking about, they did this thing last night, and of course, the folks, and I am part of the committee, were called KKK people and misogynists and white racists and blah, 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 blah. That has nothing to do with it. And
Actually,
I'm sorry, go, please.
I forget who, but somebody said that, well, do you know that the number 2 group of immigrants, or some statistic like that, are the Irish? Well, then that just proved the point. And this isn't about people of color.
You've heard of the Black Irish.
Yeah, they're the Black Irish.
That's right.
Yeah. And I need to delve into a baseball analogy. When you're a little kid and you win, it could be anything competitive, baseball, football, play comps, it doesn't matter. Sure. You win the championship, you come in first place, you get that trophy. I don't care if you're 50, 75, or 100 years old, you're going to remember that because you know that you earned it. You were number 1, MVP, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
Conversely, if you get a participation trophy, right, that 10, 12-year-old, he knows it's BS. And he knows he didn't earn it. But if you won it, you remember the time and date, and especially the year. No one makes a mistake the year they were born. No one makes a mistake when their birthday is. No one makes a mistake what year they got married, when they had their first kid, or the first whatever it is. And I very much doubt any naturalized citizen will forget the year they were naturalized.
Agreed.
You just don't make that mistake.
Agreed.
Barack Obama may make the mistake in calling Michelle Michael, but that's a whole other story. So Atal Hajiai, who I'm sure is a citizen, as well as everybody else that she had mentioned last night, and I understand the political attack on her. Well, show us your papers, blah, 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 blah. Let's assume she's a citizen. She called into, or sent a message to Hank Stoltz this past Monday with her basic story, and it's very typical, I would assume. She said she became a naturalized citizen in 2004, right? 4.
As per what you said, you don't make that mistake.
No, you don't make that mistake.
Because you go through that process, and normally when people go through the process, there's a certain pride, and they have lots of videos on these things.
Oh, if you ask my great-grandparents who emigrated here from Sweden in 1910, you want to run for District 1 over by Fort and Company at the time. you need to show us your naturalization documents.
Sure.
No, right here. They'd be more than happy to.
But
They were so proud to be an
the
American.
level of pride when they show these scenes of 8, 10, 20 people all being sworn in as citizens, half of them have tears in their eyes. They're so damn happy
absolutely.
and proud. So it's not something that's, just like you're saying, it's not something that's just another day at the office. It's a big, big deal.
It is.
Your point.
So there's no way that she or any other naturalized citizen can forget the year. So it's not a mistake.
Absolutely true.
Especially when you're writing a message to a talk radio host. So Hank Stoltz read her message. She became a naturalized citizen in 2004.
4 again. 2004, folks.
So
Which means she couldn't vote
she couldn't register
or
to vote.
register to vote until that time.
So here's a copy of the voter rolls. And you look down to ID, well, line item 84270. That's a tell, and it's all the typical information, which I won't say because that's public record, but it's nobody's business right now. Under column S, date of voter registration, it's April 11th, 2002. So how was she able to register to vote 2 years before she became a naturalized citizen?
It's not a typo, folks.
Now,
Public record, not a typo.
so if you can't, I mean, it's kind of a moot point at this point. I mean, she's a citizen when she ran for office, but she could have run in 2002, according to the voter
Based on
rolls.
this, yeah.
So how many other people, on the 110,000 or so voters, shouldn't be on there? Because it's hard to think that of the 110,000 voters that are registered in the city, there's only been a mistake with her.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about it, if there's only a 1% 1% mistake of 110,000 voters, that's 1,100 people.
The real question is, how did this happen?
Yeah, how did
Is
this
this
happen?
because somebody was sloppy? Is this because somebody looked the other way and said, we'll slide this right through? And the point is this atypical or is it typical? Are the clerks as sloppy as they seem in this case? We have the state of Texas, which has nothing to do with this, you think. They just cleaned this thing up. They have over 1.1 million people on their voting rolls that have been dumped because they're either dead or there's all sorts of, hanky-panky that's gone on with them. And it's just disgusting. And they don't want these things cleaned up. And we know, the dead come alive, not just for Halloween. They come alive when it's time to vote. It's bizarre, absolutely bizarre. So when people, talk about the fact that the vote is such a pure system, trust me, it's not. It's not.
And when you have a low voter turnout, it doesn't take too many mistakes to turn an
To
election.
swing an election.
And then the other interesting study would be how many of these mistakes, if they are, mistakes, fall in favor of Republican, unenrolled, and Democrat voters.
Mm-hmm. We all can add our own version of that, but who knows for sure?
Yeah, I mean,
Who
nobody
knows for
knows.
sure?
You need to have an audit from an independent agency.
It kind of goes back to the old chestnut of people should be showing up with some sort of identification or driver's license or whatever when they're voting. Oh, no, you can't do that. Why can't you do that? Well, some people don't. Well, if they don't have the documentation as an ex-warden, go back home and get it, period. A very, very simple concept. And yet we are more than, you're being racist. Wait a second. If a person of color, and I include myself as a person of color, my color happens to be white. But if it's white, brown, black, and anything in between and beyond, you go to buy a six-pack of Bud Light or something like that, they won't sell it to you unless you show identification. So is a six-pack of Bud Light more sacrosanct than going in and voting? I don't get it. I don't get it. And little by little, we've been positioned into accepting this crap because people have agendas. They want to keep their jobs. They want to keep their power bases. And again, that's why when Joe became president, he had that magical little marker that they gave and put his big X down. As soon as they could, they blew apart the wall and just let him come on in. They fly him into different cities. We pay for that, by the way. We fly him in, and we pay for them. And why are they doing it? People like Chuck Schumer and our good friend from Hungary, Mr. Schwartz, also known as Soros, they know how to deep six this thing. And the premise is if they can get to the point that we are a one-party country, they're going to be the ones running totally. They're going to take care of forget the Second Amendment. The First Amendment right now is under fire. And these folks want it that way. If you say something against where they're coming from, it's miscommunication. And in Great Britain, if you do something like that's against the public domain, they can arrest you. So this is not just a cancer that's in our country, it's across the board. And all I'm saying is, if you like where North Korea is at, where it's a total police state, how far removed is it from what we have now? Where you've got to watch everything that you say and so on and so forth, otherwise you're in trouble. Back to this, we didn't print this up for this, guys. This is the emes, as they say. This is the truth. And it's a very, very simple thing. There's a lot of stuff going on that shouldn't be. And there should be somebody that answers to this. I'm not sure who that is. You'll get a once over lightly. Oh, things fall through the cracks. Well, maybe they do. But this is one that did fall through the cracks. We were there to catch it before it hit the ground. And that's the story.
So the one thing about the WRCC,
quickly.
Well, they know how to throw a punch. They may have missed by a mile, but at least their name is out.
Indeed.
So people know that, and 2 police officers said thank you to
just
one
remember,
of the members.
Thank you, Jay. And guys, remember, as the old saying goes, we'll remember in November when we vote. Please, even if you're voting against the Republicans and so forth, I'm okay with that. But get out and vote. Please, let's get at least 90% in this city voting. People die for that privilege. So thank you for watching. We'll review this next time. Thank you for showing up and illuminating us with some fascinating